posting consistently. Maybe you're even running some ads, but somehow the results still feel disconnected, like two separate efforts that never quite add up. The brands winning on social have figured out how to make organic and paid work together as one strategy. And if you know me at all, you know that I've been talking about organic and paid as a 1+1 = like a gazillion for a long time. The gap between what people know and what most small businesses are doing is bigger than you think, right? So big brands are doing it all together, and then the smaller businesses might have fewer dollars, less budget to put together to do both organic and paid. So we need to know some secrets. Today, I'm sitting down with someone who has built that specific strategy from the inside at P&G, Mercedes-Benz, Robinhood, and Western Digital. She's here to pull back the curtain and show us exactly how that is done, how we can combine paid and organic and make it work really well for us. This is Strategy Talks. I'll be right back.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien Morin-van Dam.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be back on another Tuesday with another live episode of Strategy Talks. Today, we're here at lunch, at least for me, Eastern Time, and I'm excited to talk to another organic expert. If you know me well, you know that I talk organic all the time, and this time we're going to talk about the intersection of organic and paid. But before we do, I want to welcome everybody to the live show, whether you're watching this on LinkedIn, on YouTube, maybe you're watching this on Facebook. Welcome, everybody. If you're watching this on the replay, that's awesome. If you have questions when watching, just tag myself or my guest in the comments and we'll come running and answer your questions. Last but not least, I want to welcome everybody who listens to Strategy Talks as a podcast. So now I'm going to bring onto the stage with me my new friend, Melissa Dawson. How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Shout out.
Good afternoon, wherever you are.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to Michelle Raymond in Australia who connected us. You were on her podcast recently. And when I was looking for guests, she's like, absolutely have Melissa on. So I'm super excited. Melissa, where are you located?
I'm located in the Denver, Colorado area.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And those of you who have listened to this before, you know, I'm in Vermont. So we're in a little bit of a different time zone. So I said lunch, but maybe for you, it's more coffee time.
Just got done with that myself. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Melissa, you've worked across an incredible range of brands. I just named them in the open. What's the through line in your approach, no matter where you've worked?
The through line, it really is, and this is beyond organic versus paid, which I know we'll dive into quite a bit, but the through line is we are, as marketing within the social media space, we are really trying to make our target audience feel something. And whether that means, telling them a story and entertaining them or making them feel excited or FOMO or whatever it might be, that's what we're trying to do. And as it relates to the organic versus paid social conversation, organic social can only really take us so far. And by that, I mean, not being able to amplify it with paid dollars. So I see paid as a tool to really amplify that messaging so that you can make your audience feel what it is you're trying to make them feel on a broader level.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is really, really important. And I think if you're watching and listening and you're doing social, or you're involved in social or content in a B2B company, this is a little bit hard to get people to understand that we need to show the humans, we need to show the emotions, we need to lead with the stories, because they want to lead with the product, the sales, the features instead of the benefits. So yeah, that's definitely a theme that I've seen as well. So that's great. So when you look at how big brands approach organic and paid social versus how most small businesses do it, is there a significant difference? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, there's some very obvious differences, like the amount of budget that each has, right? A big company is going to probably have more to spend than a small company. But I also can see, depending on the company, there are some big brands who are still seeing organic and paid as completely separate levers. And there are small brands who are merging them together. But the, you know, the biggest difference that I've seen is the willingness to be open to trying to amplify that like higher level, top of level messaging from big brands versus small brands. Without having such a tight budget, they're really trying to make sure that every dollar counts in a way. And that means, can we show ROI? Can we show ROAS on every dollar that we're spending? That's really hard to do when you are spending it on brand messaging versus, direct response, conversion marketing, right? So that's the biggest difference I've encountered personally. And I think it's time to start talking about, smaller brands thinking about investing in those brand messaging and not just focusing on the more direct response. I think that's the key here.
All right. So I'm going to ask a side question. I just heard you say invest in that. What does that mean? Does that mean they need to up their budget? And what should a marketing budget be? Or does that mean resources? Does it mean hiring the right people? What would you envision, even if it's a smaller company, say it's got 25, 30 employees? What should they invest in? How would that start? Is it just upping the budget, or is it hiring the right people, or both?
It's a little bit of both. And it definitely depends on the goals. But I'm seeing, right now, I am seeing companies investing more in the people resources, or at least seeing the value in social media more now than ever. And what the mistake that I see being made is that, well, we'll hire a person for social media, and then that's the budget for social media, right? Is like that the person, but there's a lot more involved than just having a social media hire. And also there's a tendency to want to make that hire to be entry level, more junior, and maybe not as experienced in understanding like how social like plugs into the rest of the marketing strategy. So that's what I'm seeing. And then their organic social strategy might be failing because they're not investing in the other things required around it. So that could be video content creation requires a lot of other resources beyond a person. You need the technical tools for it and hardware. You need all of that. And then on top of that, kind of circling back to the original point of investing in actual ad spend to amplify that brand messaging. Especially right now when people, this has always been the case on social, but it's even more so now, is that people are a lot more averse to ads on social. An ad that feels like an ad that feels like it's making you do something or go somewhere you don't want to go. I want to keep scrolling on LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever. I don't want to be taken somewhere else. So seeing social media as the place where you really should be having those like top level brand messages and narratives and things like that. That's where I'm seeing a lack of investment from these smaller companies right now. Some are doing it and some are doing it right. But the ones that they are reaping the benefits.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, do you have any, like, this kind of goes with that. So if we talk about organic content, investing in that, you just mentioned a couple of things. You said not hiring a junior person, right? Maybe scaling up a little bit, or if you are doing video, you need to get the right tech and the right tools. Is there anything else that is needed to do organic well that people are missing? Since you've been in this, we were just talking in the green room. You've been in it as long as I have, since 2010, which is crazy. I literally just stuck a name on the door and said, I'm a social media manager. And I went around to local companies and said, I'm for hire. And that's how I got started after taking an online course. So I've been in the trenches almost as long as you have. But what else might people need besides those few things to do organic well?
Yeah. I want to hit on a point real quick about entry level and junior level employees. Not saying not to hire them. I think that they have a ton of value and have a perspective, especially on social, assuming that they're a bit on the younger side of how social works and what's working well on social right now. So I think there's a ton of value in them. I'm not saying do not hire them. I'm saying there should be maybe a combination, right, of having someone at a more strategic leader level and then someone to help support on the junior level. But beyond that, other things to be investing in. I mean, this isn't necessarily a dollars thing, but in an attention thing. So in these companies, let's say it's 25 to 30 person startup, it's very likely they have somebody, a designer on staff. If they're not a full-time, maybe a contract, whoever they might be, and other pieces of the puzzle that you shouldn't be relying on your social media manager to do everything and anything that happens on social. You should be encouraging and prioritizing having that social media person be collaborating with each of those different rungs, right? With a designer, if you have video content, a video content creator or something like that. And seeing that social really is the future of where people's attention is going. That means that your marketing efforts you should be prioritizing social media in your marketing efforts within your marketing org. Another thing that I just thought of, because I mentioned video content creators, and it's something that can be a lot more scalable than working with, saying we need a new full-time hire, right? For a videographer and a video editor and all these different things. To something that you can really scale up quickly is working with what they call themselves UGC creators. I think UGC has, it has kind of changed definitions. Let's call them, content creators,
right,
or external content creators who you can work with to curate that video content or design content, whatever it might be. There's just a lot of resources out there now that you can really scale up your content creation and social media efforts.
Yeah, I love that idea. I've worked with quite a few small companies that started an ambassador program. And so part of the ask for the ambassadors was, of course, promote us, help amplify our voice by sharing what we share on social, but also we would love for you to shoot some content for us and continuously. So, say it's a year-long ambassador program, that we maybe once a quarter, we get a video from you or a write-up or a blog or, whatever these people were comfortable with. So I like that idea a lot. And that, it might cost you a little bit of money, but an ambassador program is usually, for the small companies that I've worked with, it's paid in kind. So for example, for a running store, they might have gotten a free pair of shoes and an entry into a bunch of, local runs kind of thing, and then they're an official ambassador, maybe a t-shirt. But if it's a paid ambassador program, of course, then you have to pay them money as well. But I think that's a great way to get some content. That I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, this might be a hot topic. A lot of small business owners treat boosting a post as their paid strategy. Can you explain what they're missing?
I think the boosting the way that it works on these social networks, and I think most specifically about Meta or LinkedIn, is it the easy button of just boost the post, and it has like very top level targeting options, and you're just, saying, I have $50, I want to put it on to boost this post. It doesn't allow you to be as strategic. And I think that type of boost, the tools don't really work so well for that. And I think it's missing like the piece of the puzzle about, it's not just these are like one-off posts. And I feel like we used to in social media think of social that way, as like the content calendar and the social posts are all kind of divorced from the rest of the marketing strategy and the marketing campaigns. And we're seeing more and more that the social and marketing campaigns are becoming one and the same. So thinking about your top level brand social posts as being, carved up into separate campaigns, and creating a place where that is housed in your ads manager. And then as you go on through the social calendar, as these posts come up and you believe that post has legs and should be amplified more, including that as part of that campaign. And that way you are set up to have that targeting the right people, with the right timing, the right spend. And you're also allowing the ads manager to optimize based on like what's performing best, versus saying, I want to spend $100 on this particular post. Instead, you're allowing the algorithm to optimize to whatever actually might perform the best.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah, that's one of the biggest frustrations that I've seen with really small companies if it's done a project for them, where a owner will see that button that Meta shows them and then just hit it and boost it, and they've now spent $100. And I'm like, well, what did it do? It elevated your visibility for maybe a week, but it didn't convert. Did your phone ring? What happened? And so if we can't tie anything to it, then it's really not as valuable as I think it should be. So thanks for explaining that. Now, I want to touch on something. You worked at a scrappy mobility like startup, right? Car2Go, which is very different from one of the other companies. Did you learn anything at the startup phase that could be helpful to somebody watching this, somebody who might be starting a small business or feels like they're maybe still in the startup, even if they're a couple of years in? What was that like? And if there are any lessons in what you did there?
Yeah, it was an interesting space. It was a kind of like a startup within a larger company. So Car2Go actually was owned by Mercedes-Benz Daimler. And so it was like a startup experiment or project within the bigger like Mercedes Daimler family. And that meant we had some access to budget for marketing efforts, but definitely didn't have a ton in terms of the social side of things. So we did have to get pretty scrappy with our content creation, and, telling stories really was what did it for us, or like making people feel seen through our content. We had the type of people who really were super fans of the brand felt very strongly about it, because it was this solution that didn't really exist. We had maybe one competitor, Zipcar, and there's like a community built around people who are carless or like single car families. And I myself actually am a single car family, and it's like something that people have a lot of pride in. So thinking through like what are the shared human truths about that particular community, and diving into it really deeply, becoming part of it myself, and becoming your own cheerleader for that community, as like being from the brand standpoint, right? So making those people really the center of our content was a huge part of it, and humanizing it was a big part of our strategy.
That's awesome. That's great. That's awesome. You also mentioned that you grew the audience by a WD audience by 30% and drove 83 million impressions, combining organic, paid, and employee advocacy. Like, that's a lot. What did you do? Where did you start? Where did you go? How do you, I mean, 83 million impressions, is that on everywhere? I'm assuming it's not one platform. It's on all the
It's
combined.
actually that one's just LinkedIn. I didn't even pull in.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. 83, the growth, the 200,000 growth, and the impressions were LinkedIn, and we are on other channels too. But that's really where my team has been the most focused on. And for context, it's been I've been on the corporate marketing team as a corporate social media lead, and so very focused on the like very top level, more B2B messaging. And we have other platforms that have been a little bit more product focused. All that to say that, yeah, those numbers were very much LinkedIn specifically. And I think it was a combination of a lot of things. Shifting our strategy was a huge part of it. So about a little over a year ago in February 2025, we had a spinoff where SanDisk was part of the Western Digital family, and they spun off to their own company. So it became two separate entities. SanDisk really focused on the more consumer and like small business customers. And then now that we're focused on these more like large data storage solutions for large enterprises, we shifted our focus to becoming more B2B and B2 enterprise focused. And so at the time, LinkedIn was not a priority before that happened, before that spinoff. And when the social team from SanDisk moved over to that team, myself and my director of content marketing worked together on strategy to really prioritize LinkedIn, and kind of put most of our eggs in that basket. And that means investing our time, energy, and dollars in the creation of that content to be more LinkedIn first, not just social first, but LinkedIn first. Have everything else kind of more follow that lead. And then also investing dollars, shifting from the more consumer platforms to the B2B platform of LinkedIn. So all of that together, along with the fact that we've been making a lot of big news lately, it doesn't hurt to be a company that's currently in the spotlight because of our very successful stock price, the tie-in between the need for our products in the age of AI. We're really tied closely together. And just the huge growth that we've been seeing over the past year and a half, we have a lot of visibility right now. So everyone wants to follow along. A lot of people are investing in us. They want to know what's going on at our company. So that's really all that together has kind of led to that growth. And we've just been making sure that we've tied the social strategy to match it.
That's really smart. That's really, really smart. And I love that you mentioned that you've got different teams, and you've got a content director and a social media marketer and social media team. And it takes a lot of effort. I mean, I want to recognize that. So for those of you who are listening and you're a team of one, it takes a lot of people to have that kind of growth and to have, to put together that kind of strategy, but execute it. And it needs quite a bit of budget. So, that should not be your gold star goal yourself if you're a smaller company, but we can learn from what Melissa just shared, that, really focusing on one channel, which I love that you said that instead of social first, LinkedIn first, or, I think that focusing on one channel, do that really, really well, and figuring out the strategy for that will allow you to then take that learning, I'm sure, to Meta and to other places if you wanted to. But I don't know where else B2B is going to do as well as it does on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you need to go anywhere else. how, if a small business owner, and I know you've worked with some, is starting from scratch, trying to connect their organic and paid efforts, like where did I start to connect the two? If they've been in those silos that we talked about in the beginning, where did I start to connect them?
First, from like the business owner perspective, I think you need to stop treating them as two completely separate things that need to be seen as having different goals. So often I see business owners or leaders viewing organic, social, or that like top level, more narrative driven content as not needing to have paid media support, and then paid social being strictly for direct response, strictly for, is it driving sales? Is it driving conversions? We need to prove out every dollar that gets spent out. And I think that's the first step, is understanding that those two should not be separate. They end up leading to the same goal, even though you don't have that with the top level narrative content. You don't necessarily have those hard data points that way you do with direct response ads. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not performing and doing what it needs to do in the same way that, any other kind of brand messaging is being supported with dollars, media spend, et cetera. But we're not doing that with organic social. So first of all, like seeing those two things as not separate, but things that need to be collaborated on together. Often I see teams are split out where you have an organic social person and you have a paid social, or like not even just a paid social person, but a paid person, right? So they're managing the Google ads, they're managing programmatic and all of that, and they're also managing paid social. So the way that they prove out results, the way that they think about performance is very different from the way an organic social person might see performance. I encourage both people on both sides to do a few different things between, whether if you do have those two separate people, having them collaborate regularly. It seems pretty obvious, but at least understanding each other's goals and knowing that your goals are together. You're not doing separate things. You're all leading up to the same marketing strategy, first of all. Second of all, this is just from my personal experience, is getting a taste of the other side. So yeah. So when I, this is like 10 years, more than 10 years ago, I worked at an agency, and my career started in an organic social, just creating content for brands that is no dollars behind it. And when I was in an agency, I switched from organic social to paid social because I saw the writing on the wall that, especially at the time, like all of our clients, all they wanted was drive us sales, right? So I wanted to understand that side of the fence. I did end up moving into that role, being just focused on paid social instead of organic social. And what I found was the people I was working with on my team were those like very performance focused people. And I was able to bring that knowledge of what works well on social to the paid strategies. And there were things that they just hadn't been exposed to before. So I also personally got that perspective from the paid side, and like, what are the demands that they're seeing from their clients, right? And then since then, kind of went back into organic social. And then when I went to Car2Go, I had both of those experiences. So I was able to marry those, as I said in my LinkedIn post. I said, like, two become one. We should be marrying organic and paid social. And, we were able to drive these more like brand messaging campaigns through paid social campaigns. And they very much outperformed the more direct response ad style on social. And so I had that experience. So all to say, my biggest recommendation is, if you're in organic social, get some experience on the paid side, dive into Ads Manager, understand how that system works, and understand the goals there are a little bit different than your organic KPIs. And on the other side, if you work in paid social, talk to your organic social person, or also try to get some experience in that content creation side as well. And understanding both sides will help make it all come full circle.
That's really great advice. I love that. So I have a couple more questions. We're just about at time, but one more question, like, how do you know when an organic post is worth putting money behind? What is your criteria? And then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. So there's times when we already know we're going to be amplifying an organic post because it's part of a campaign, and we know that we want that as a piece that we want to amplify. For the content that we aren't necessarily planning to amplify, but we see an opportunity to, because we have a little, and here and other places I've been, we've had like a little slush fund, right? To amplify content that we thought were just going to be organic. I'm usually looking at potential, and that's potential that I see on the engagement rate, because if your engagement rate, meaning your total engagement over your total reach or impressions, there's a strong engagement rate, that means that if you have this little pool of reach and you have a really strong engagement rate within that pool, well, if you open up that wider and you get more reach, the idea is hopefully the engagement rate stays consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Often it doesn't, I'll be honest. I mean, in paid, that's engagement rate in paid is a bit lower than organic, but that's what I'm looking at in terms of like, should I boost or amplify this post and give it a little bit more legs?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So look at engagement rates. So I have like 5 more questions that we're not gonna get to, but that's okay. People, if they love what you're saying and they are either in social and in organic, or they're in paid, and they're like, oh, I love what Melissa's saying, want to connect with you, where and how can they connect with you? And so they can continue to learn or follow you on LinkedIn, or where are you most active?
LinkedIn, definitely.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn, posting regularly, and hopefully doing more of these talks in the future.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here and bringing your wisdom. I learned a few new things, and I hear you on finding out about the other side. I've had a couple of clients lately who asked me to step into paid, and I've hesitantly put a couple of feet in there, maybe both feet for one company. And it's definitely a challenge, but it definitely is a good thing to know. And I totally agree on that. So that was a big takeaway for me, to continue doing that. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. For those of you who are here with us live and you're still here at the end, or are listening to this as a podcast, we appreciate you so much. Connect with Melissa. I'll make sure that all her information is in the show notes when you're listening to this. Melissa, thank you so much for being with me today as my guest. And I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.